All right. Hi. My name is Will. I am applying to be a tutor with you guys. For my little short video showing you how I tutor, I'm going to be explaining the product rule. I'm going to work under the assumption that the student already understands how to take the derivative of many individual things like x squared and uh, trigonometric functions like cosine and secant and stuff like that. And I'm just going to be teaching them the basics of how to do the product rule of an individual equation or of a certain equation. So, all right. So for the product rule, it sounds dangerous. It's actually really not. How I like to work out the product rules first, I like to give an example. So let's give something simple. Let's say x squared times e to the x. So by themselves, we can figure out what the derivatives of these two things are. So we know that x squared, we're going to pull the 2 down. It's going to be 2x, and then we're going to subtract 1 from here. So it's going to be 2x to the first, or just 2x. For e to the x, my favorite thing to differentiate and actually integrate, I know we haven't gotten to integrals yet, but you'll see why it's easy. I mean, it's actually, you'll understand why it's easy, but it's the same reason it's easy for derivatives, because e to the x is just equal to e to the x. Now, we went to the product rule. You need to multiply these things together and get their derivatives. It's weird, I know, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it this way. How I like to think about doing the product rule is you take the derivative of one part of the equation. So let's separate this into two parts of the equation, which we did here. So this, I want you to don't think about this as division. Think about this as me separating this into two different parts. So the first part, part 1, is this. It's x squared. Part 2 is e to the x. Now, in order to solve with the product rule, your first step is going to be taking the derivative of x squared, or the derivative of part 1. So the derivative of part 1 is 2 to the x, because we did this earlier over here. Now, in order to make this a complete product rule, you have to multiply it by the original part 2, which is e to the x. And then you need to do it again, but you need to flip it. So you need to multiply the derivative of part 2. Kind of look like a 1 there. You need to multiply the derivative of part 2 times the original form of part 1. And since it's product rule, you need to add them together. You will always be adding in product rule. Obviously, if there's a negative sign and it negates this, that's something that you need to watch out for on your own. But since these are both positive, we know it's going to be addition because it's product rule. So 2x e to the x plus, remember, this derivative, e to the x, times the original of part 1, which is x squared. And this is product rule. See, it's a lot simpler than you think about it when you originally think about it. If you just break it up into two separate parts. So remember, part 1 times the derivative of part 2, and then part 2 times the derivative of part 1, or vice versa. You can organize it however you want. That's the beauty of math. As long as you know what you're capable of doing and what your limits are, you can write this in any way you want. I could have written this e to the x times x squared plus 2x e to the x. Or I could have flipped these. I could have, moved everything around. But as long as this is multiplied by this, and this is multiplied by this, and you're adding them together, they all equal the same thing. That's why math is so cool. All right, that's it. That's my demo.